Hi, everyone. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Adam Penny. I'm the CEO of The Beautiful Truth. The Beautiful Truth, for those of you who don't know, is a publication and a creative consultancy dedicated to imagining new narratives of what a business can be, particularly at this moment of uncertainty and disruption. I'm here with Claudia Biçen, the Chief Creative Officer at The Beautiful Truth, and we are very excited to be joined by Scott Barry Kaufman, whose thinking has influenced me and has influenced The Beautiful Truth for many years. Scott is a cognitive psychologist, a best-selling author, and his work sits at the intersection of intelligence, creativity, and human potential. And he's also among the top 1% most cited scientists in the world. His latest book, Rise Above, explores how we can move beyond limiting narratives and reclaim ownership of the story we're telling ourselves. Scott, welcome. It's very exciting to have you on.
Oh, thank you so much. It's really an honor to be here with you guys.
Just one quick technical note before we kind of kick in. We want this to be interactive, so please do feel free to send in your questions. A member of the team will be looking out for them, and if we don't get to them during the chat, we'll get to them at the end. So, Scott, as
Where
I've
do we
said,
begin?
where do we begin? I've been fascinated by your approach for many years, and I think my first encounter with you was a podcast you were doing with Sam Harris. So that would have been what, 2020, and you were talking about transcendent experiences in such a way that I found myself going into a transcendent experience.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
and I then kind of started reading your books. I've listened to your podcasts, not all 478 episodes, but the guests that you have on there also really
To
influence
be
how
fair,
I think.
neither have I listened to all of my episodes.
But you have people like Jonathan Haidt on it, John Vervaeke, Daka Keltner, all these people who really influence how we think. But tell me, what do you think? What's the thing that kind of ties all your work together? What is it that you're trying to explore and express for the world?
My sort of tagline throughout my whole career has been I like to help all kinds of minds live a fulfilling, creatively self-actualized life. And the each one of those words is important there because the all kinds of minds part um, references the idea that I am a big fan of neurodiversity
Mm,
and a big fan of helping people who are falling between the cracks in a
mm,
system, whether it's an education system or it's an organizational system that doesn't understand the value of cognitive diversity and all different kinds of ways that people can all the quirkiness that can be used for creativity.
mm,
We squelch it, especially in K through 12
mm.
in America. I don't know exactly what that's like in England if you all are squelching it too, but we are for sure.
We're definitely, it's changing. The education system is changing a lot to allow for lots of different types of minds, which is great. But yeah, when I was reading your book, you kind of started looking at a new definition of human intelligence, but then went on to kind of, or as part of that, looked at creativity,
That's
looked
right.
at self-actualization and things like that. Tell us about that.
Do you want me to tell you about the evolution of that way of
Yeah,
thinking?
how did it sort of flow? Because as I said, it's really that intersection where you sit, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I started off thinking my main objective in life, another way of saying it is purpose, is to um, redefine human intelligence. That's what I thought I was originally doing. But I think
Mm,
once I started studying the science of intelligence and the science of IQ, and I studied with England's leading psychometrician, Nicholas McIntosh at Cambridge, and he taught me everything there is to know about IQ. I realized that wasn't where I would really move the needle on potential. So
mhm,
I thought that was the thing I needed to do to
mm,
redefine potential and help people who are falling between the cracks. I realized IQ was not it. And then I discovered the field of the science of creativity, and that was really exciting to
mhm,
me. And argued in my dissertation that unconscious intelligence particularly the kind of intelligence that operates in the arts,
Yeah.
was really has been just ignored completely by by psychologists. So that was a big thing I wanted to argue for. Yeah.
Because it's interesting because I know, and there's the positive psychology movement, which are you're a part, but before that, the humanists, and the humanists never explored creativity as a
They did,
well.
and so I only discovered they sure did, but I only discovered humanistic psychology later in my career. Maybe could have saved me a lot of something if I discovered them earlier. Trying to recreate the wheel in some ways, but I was teaching positive psychology at the University of Pennsylvania, which is
Mhm.
the world headquarters for positive psychology,
Mhm.
and I just researching the history of the field and discovered the writings of Abraham Maslow, and then was like,
Mhm.
where have you been all my life?
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so actually moving into Maslow, I mean the book of yours that's definitely had the biggest impact on my life is Transcend, which is effectively a sort of an understanding of and a reconceptualization of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And it really, for me, captured so
Mm,
beautifully how self-actualization really is um, about kind of stepping into a much broader and more expansive version of what the self is beyond the sort of the individual self and how it connects to the world, what really integrates and connects with the world around you. Um, and I've used that book and those thoughts so much in the experiences and the education I've designed for young people and now for adults through the beautiful truth. Can you tell us more about that book and why you're inspired to write that specifically?
yes, and everyone, please note your attention to the slide that was just updated,
Mhm.
the background of the sailboat metaphor. Yes, I was looking through the writings of Maslow. I went down the rabbit hole as I do. I get obsessed with things, and then I read his journals and couldn't find the pyramid anywhere. The Maslow pyramid. Couldn't find it anywhere, and it upset me because it's everywhere. I learned it in my intro to psych class, and it turns out he never drew a pyramid, and he always thought about human development as a constant one step forward, two steps back dynamic, where it's not like a video game where we reach some level of need satisfaction, like we're no longer hungry, and then some voice from above is like, "Congrats, you've unlocked family," and then once you have a family, you never have to worry about being hungry again or your self-esteem. That's not true. And so, yeah, I redesigned it to be this sailboat where you have security needs, which are safety, connection, self-esteem. You feel like if you don't have those, you can view them as a system as well. If one is out of whack, the others tend to go out of whack. Um, and I also wanted to I didn't want to neglect the growth needs, exploration, love, and purpose, which is also a system of when those three things are integrated, you tend to get a lot of pro-social creative actualization in the world.
Mhm.
Um, but just feeling safe and secure is not going to get to where you want to go. You need to have some vision of what port you want to sail to,
Mm.
and be willing to open up your sail, and let that freak flag fly. Wait, no, sorry, I didn't mean, I didn't say that. No, I mean open up the sail and move in the direction of purpose and exploration and really like your uniqueness. What is what is the thing that makes you, most unique in this world, and really getting in touch with that and not having shame or around it, and yeah, really moving in the direction you want to move.
Yeah, that reconceptualization really resonated with me. I think these game metaphors, these competitive metaphors, right, are just embedded in so much of our culture. It's not surprising to me that the pyramid kind of took hold at that moment in time. And yours of reimagining it as really a journey, much more of a journey
The
metaphor.
journey.
Yeah, ultimately, I think speaks more deeply to the human experience. So we actually use the sailboat metaphor all the time with our clients to help identify where in organizations people
Wow.
are, like in terms of their psychological needs. And in our experience, I'm really interested what you think about this. There's often a disjoint between the psychological needs of leadership, which often are up in that sale and sort of been about innovation and growth and that exploration and that movement. And then there's a disjoint between that and often employees who are operating in the hull from those safety needs, perhaps, particularly at this moment in time, fear of layoffs, fear of AI kind of
Mm.
taking their jobs, changing the nature of work. And I just wondered from your perspective, is that something that you've seen in the work that you've done with organizations and leadership? And also, how would you recommend that leaders talk to employees when they're coming from such a different set of psychological needs? And
Oh, great. Well, I love that I love that question very much. I have an edited book coming out this in a couple months, Leading for Tomorrow, Unlocking Human Potential in the Era of Continuous Change and Endless Possibility. Roughly, that's what it's called. And anyway, and it's really about what are the ways in which we can have a human-centered workplace. I'm all about having a workplace that centers around human needs, and
Mm.
not just the needs of the employees, but which is very important, but your clients, and sometimes even your clients may uh, think that their bottom line is money,
Mm.
or their bottom line is status, relative to their other organizations that are similar to them, and being able to recenter them and get in touch with what is the real purpose, why they started their company to begin with, where did it come from, what are the needs that you and what is not only just the why, the purpose, but in what ways are there opportunities? Is there stagnancy there, or is there a climate that's conducive to generating new ideas
Mm.
and just not getting caught up in that power status game of like, well, we have to clone that company who's doing better than us, as
Mm.
opposed to, well, we need to really tap into what's really unique about us as a company and what really, can we do that no one else in the world can do.
mm,
Mm. I think it's really interesting because a lot of companies I think forget that having a company or running a company is almost a creative act in itself.
Mm,
It's an expression of something. And so if you're
that's
doing it
right.
with a financial goal in mind, you ignore so much more potential and so many other things you do. We often say that a business isn't just a profit-making entity, it's a meaning-making one.
Mm.
It's a place where we all derive a sense of meaning for our lives, for the world, for society, everything else. And it sounds like that's what the next book is focusing on a bit.
It is, and it's got amazing contributors to it.
Mm.
It's not about me at all, this book. This is a great transcendent book actually in that regard. It's Chris Shipley and I edited it, but it's just has some of the leading management thinkers and people that we brought together who are just kind humans who are
Mm.
trying to make sense of how and give their best advice. Yeah, they're short, snappy chapters, and a lot of different perspectives, but they're all united by a desire to create a more human-centered workplace.
Excellent.
Scott, of those essays that you compiled for that book, what's one that really has kind of changed the way that you think?
Oh, that's a great question. Um, it's like there's a chapter in there on rethinking Maslow, which I just thought it's so cool because like I'm not the only one who's rethinking Maslow, and the argument in there is that we need some more human dignity, in our
Mm.
workplace, and like and it also was a call to not only we need more human dignity, but we like don't forget to have human dignity.
Mm,
Um, that shouldn't be like low on the priority list,
Hmm.
like nothing should really kind of trump that.
Mm.
And I just want us to remember that, because it's very easy when you get caught up in other goals, business goals, to lose that with your employees or
Mm.
even sometimes with the people that you're trying to help. you know, and that should be like the non-negotiable,
Mm. Yeah, I
you
think
know.
dignity is an interesting word, isn't it? We get very interested by words that people use for things, and dignity is something we can all agree on. No matter what level you're at, dignity is kind of is a fundamental, isn't it? That can be everybody can agree on. Something to strive for.
I think so. Yeah. So that was Jacqueline Novogratz who wrote that chapter.
Nice.
Thanks.
Yeah.
So tell us about Rise Above. Why did you write it? What's the premise of that book?
Um, do I have it behind me? I took
You
it
got it
down.
there.
Anyway, I took it down. But yeah, Rise Above. That it's funny. You write a book, it takes you years, and then it comes out, and you're like, I'm on to the next thing by that point, but then you have to promote it and everything. It's funny because you go through it. So, but what started with that, like, was this interest in this trait called vulnerable narcissism that I
Mm,
had been doing a lot of research on, because it goes under the radar. You tend to find that grandiose narcissism
mm,
is more obvious because it's right in your face. The person with grandiose narcissism is like, I'm the best. And by the way, from a company perspective, you have a lot of CEOs, excluding Adam Penny, who are grandiose narcissists, and they take down the whole ship. But everyone's on board with them up to a certain point because they have so much charisma, and they say we're the best, and they feed the ego. But vulnerable narcissism is more of I'm entitled to special privileges because I've suffered more than everyone else.
mm,
And it gets to, and a real key aspect of that is the victim mindset. And the more and more I research this, I realize that, wow, there's a book here because this victim mindset that any of us can fall prey to seems to be
mm,
such a big inhibitor of self-actualization. So I wanted, in a way, to write a book about empowerment. The opposite side of it is, what does it mean to really have self-empowerment? Yeah.
mm. Yeah, it's interesting. I think I was saying to you before that the thing that really struck me about it is this. I quoted Jack Cornfield, this idea that you need to hold your identity lightly. It's almost like, if you try and fix your identity as a victim or well, particularly victim in this case, or fix the trauma as something that is so tied to your identity, it limits your potential, it limits your ability to transcend, to see more of yourself.
Yeah, and I don't think transcendence needs to be such a big, it's a big word, right? And we think
Mm,
of, magic mushrooms, but I
mm,
think that we can all reach these kind of micro moments of transcendence every time
mm,
we expand our consciousness,
mm,
um, and expand ourself, and we include others in ourself, and we include not just other people, but like I'm in all right now staring at your background of, look
mm,
at those stars. There's so
mm,
many stars, so many stars. I'm getting lost in those stars,
mm.
and you get kind of lost in something that is far beyond you,
Mm,
and that doesn't have to be like this profound moment of like, like I said, magic mushrooms, or like, being like, going on a retreat,
mm,
for silent retreat for 10 weeks, those are sources of it there, but there are a lot of sources throughout our course of our day, if only we are able to expand our attention.
mm. Yeah, absolutely. I think the book for me holds this fine line of kind of pointing at different aspects of where you might be getting caught by victim narratives, by your own story, and kind of going, look, you might be getting caught here and you might be getting caught there, without going too far into almost fixing the solution here or fixing the solution there.
Oh yeah, that's a really good way of putting it. Yeah.
One of the things, obviously, we're interested in stories. You talk about the underdog story. Tell me about the underdog story and how that can help people.
um so I've always felt like the underdog, like when I was a kid growing up. I'm trying to think to answer your question honestly about my
Mm,
past as well. When I was a kid, I was in special education because they just didn't know what to do with me. There's not like there was a diagnosis, like there's like he's too creative, put him in detention, and I put him in special ed. I did have an auditory disability when I was the first couple years of my life, but I really outgrew that. And I had a lot of anxiety as well. But um, uh, I'm sorry, what was your question?
The underdog story.
Oh yes, I always felt
Yeah,
like an underdog.
yeah.
And I felt I was excited to see this, and but that motivated me. At a certain point, being the underdog really motivated me to want to take myself out of special education and prove to them that I was capable of more. And I was really delighted to see that there's research at Wharton and University of Pennsylvania on this called the underdog effect, where you have a lot of people who are maybe marginalized individuals, who, when told that they can't do something, that often is a source of motivation for them to
Mm.
outperform others. So the effect itself is that underdogs tend to outperform other people when they're given the feedback that they're underdogs. And I think
Yeah.
that is such important important research because yeah, they don't count people out.
Yeah, I think it's that shift of, isn't it, even in that narrative.
We got you, Claudia. We got you,
I'm sorry.
Claudia.
Go
I'm
on.
gonna force Adam to let you
Stop
talk.
talking. Go on,
No,
Claudia.
I was just going to say, connected to that, you sort of said this outperforming each other, and it sort of makes me think about the corporate cultures that we see a lot that are quite, can be quite fear-based, are quite driven by achievement and competition. This sort
Mm.
of dog eat dog world, different kind of dog, right? And I'm
Yeah.
just wondering how do you think that culture sort of feeds this victim mindset that you talk about in Rise Above, or does it limit it? Like, how does it play out in that context?
What a fascinating question. So can you just unpack a little more this culture? What this
When I
culture
say
is?
this culture, I would say like the sort of cultural norms within corporate America, and you see the same here, is that it is quite a fear-based cult, quite a fear-based culture. It's sort of very focused on achievement, competition, less
You know,
so on
you know,
perhaps, yeah.
look, I think that it's such a complex question, and I have trouble just giving simple answers to complex questions. But the reason why it's complex is because I actually don't think that's an issue of a victim mindset. I think that you have a lot of people who are very successful and very high powered, high performance, who have the opposite of victim mindset, but it's still problematic. You know, it's like overconfident. It's directing. I mean, there are a lot of people, there are a lot of companies that in their like pride that they don't have a victim mindset,
Mm.
they power through and maybe like step on vulnerable people,
Mm,
or step on toes or don't really care about the human-centered aspect of a company with a victim mindset would be more of like, oh, we lost this profit, and so therefore we're going to be helpless. We're going to feel like we really don't know, like we can't get out of this hole, and maybe we'll close down the company. We'll kind of give up. And that to me, that's more of a victim mindset attitude. But like what you're describing, there's still problems with corporate cultures that even don't have a victim mindset, that have
Mm.
maybe a grandiose narcissistic kind of mindset. And there's like a great middle way here, where between the two, where you're not overconfident and you're not underconfident, where you feel like you're worthy as a person
Mm.
or as a company, and you also feel like you're constantly going to have plan B, plan C, plan D. You're not going to give up. And you're going to have learned hopefulness, is what I call it. And what my colleague Dan Thomasulu calls it, learned hopefulness as a
Mm.
company, as opposed to learned helplessness.
would you say that that distinction between learned helplessness and learned hopefulness is the difference between a story that facilitates somebody's or
Yes.
a collective's growth
Right.
versus having them stuck or
Yes. I'm so glad you brought up stories. Yes. And you use the word stories in my book, Rise Above. I use the word narratives, but I think we're
Mm.
talking about the same thing. And the narratives that you hold as a company is so essential to motivating you to either pack it in, give it up, or move forward. There's a great quote by the existential psychotherapist Irv Yalom, who says,
Mm.
"Sooner or later, you have to give up all hope for a better past."
Mm.
It's
Mm.
just such a brilliant,
Mm.
brilliant quote. And
Mm.
if you can have a narrative, like if you're struggling as a company, let's say you're not getting a lot of strings of wins all of a sudden,
Mm.
being able to hold the narrative that we are that this is part of our DNA, that we continually rise above. You know, we're a company that like we go through cycles where we get strings of losses and we always rise above. And just to be able to empower your organization through, to empower your organization through narratives that are empowering versus ones that are disempowering, I think is a big key piece of this puzzle.
Mm.
But
Interesting.
thank you. I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah,
So we've got a question from the floor. We talk a lot about psychological safety, but in this person's
we do.
experience, most organizations that say they have it don't. What does genuine psychological safety look like in an organization?
Yeah, great question. We have the researcher who came up with the phrase psychological safety. She's a contributor to our book,
Right.
Leading for Tomorrow. Yeah, so psychological safety. It depends how you're defining it, but I assume that you're talking about creating a culture where everyone feels as though they can dissent if they need to, or there's not like a power structure where they
Mm.
feel unsafe to stand up and say, I don't think this is right, or
Mhm.
I think we need to move in a different direction. Just I want to make sure we're on the same page of what we're talking about with psychological safety. And so the question was what exactly about psychological
Yeah,
safety?
what does it look like? What does a genuine psychologically safe organization look like?
Well, I think that, is really be a company that encourages its employees to make suggestions about what to make the how to make the company better and to be able to honestly say when they think things are not
Mm.
working or when they think there might be even an abuse of power.
Mm.
I mean, man, that's a big one, right? Like
Mm.
you see abuses of power all the time in organizations at different levels.
Yeah.
And allow there to be a mechanism where you're safe to express that is important. But I also would say, as I often do, about the toggle between safety and growth. I would say that sometimes like we talk too much about psychological safety. So
Mm.
like I think companies sometimes get too obsessed with creating a culture of belonging that
Mm.
they really get stagnant when it comes to creativity because no one's taking any risks. No one's
Yeah.
no one everyone's just trying to play it safe all the time,
Yeah.
and so I think that that it's a toggle. It's a toggle, and I think psychologically is very important, but I also really think there's a gift in not belonging. And yeah, there's a book with that title that I saw the other day, The Gift of Not Belonging. I was like, that's a darn good title. I haven't read the book yet, so I can't say if it's good or not, but I really like the
That's a good
title.
title.
I really like the title because at least in America, everyone's obsessed with belonging, in
Yeah.
organizations, and I think
Yeah.
that you also should be promoting individual creative actualization as well.
Mm.
Yeah,
I-
it's interesting. My understanding of psychological safety versus belonging is that actually you could have very high psychological safety and not belong whatsoever. And actually
That's true by
it's
expressing your dissent,
yeah, the
right?
safety to be different,
The
right? The
safety to be
safety to
different.
express a different opinion and not feel like you will be vilified for it. But it doesn't, you don't necessarily, yeah. So I don't know. I sort of see it as a key part of risk taking. But
Great point. Well, that's a really excellent point. That's a really excellent point. I kind of went on a little mini tangent on an adjacent topic of belonging. It's not the same exact thing as psychological safety, but you do tend to find in America those who are obsessed with psychological safety are
mm,
also obsessed with belonging. So you tend to find that the same kind of people that talk about one, maybe they talk the talk, but
Mm.
they don't walk the talk by always necessarily emphasizing the value of not belonging. But anyway, I really like that. I really like what you said. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this actually connects to another question we've just had come in about, how do you talk to an organization about growth when a significant part of the workforce is genuinely at risk? I think this also connects back to this obsession with belonging. How can you create a sense of belonging when also people are at risk in their jobs and you are talking about growth and belonging and many people may not be there the following week? How do you?
That's a tough one. I mean, that's a real human question and a real reality, um, uh, for sure. I think that, someone who really values cognitive diversity and neurodiversity, if it's part of your culture that, we really value people's unique contributions here,
Mm.
I think that sending that signal, sending that message is super important, for instance. Um, and the question is a great one. Like, what do you do if you're the person who really um, has a very divergent way of viewing the world or acting in the company, and you fear that you don't want to be fired? Um, sometimes you sort of just have to take that risk, and you know, hopefully you're in the right job that appreciates it appreciates that risk. And sometimes being fired, by the way, is the biggest blessing ever. And like, don't always be so scared about being fired. I know that's like some say, oh, it's easy for you to say. No, it's not easy for me to say. I quit my job last week, like, and it's not like I have another job lined up. It's not easy for me to say. Like, I've got no income coming at this moment. Like, I think that some of us really should be embracing the unknown and should be not always so concerned with will I have security. And so my other answer to that question in kind of a maybe a cheeky way is put your whole heart on the line. That's such a great path to self-actualization, and be willing to embrace the fact that you may get fired.
Mm.
Might
Yeah,
not be the right fit for you. That might not be the right place for you.
it makes me think of the quote of Maslow's that you reference about how every human being has two forces inside them. Is it one pulling towards safety, one towards growth?
Growth. You have to keep
Yeah.
choosing the growth option again and again,
Yeah.
overcome the fear response again and again. Yeah, there's so much research showing. And again, I wish we had a chat window here so I have no idea what
Mm.
the 38 people in the room right now are thinking right now. And I just would just die to know what they're thinking. That's the professor in me, is wanting to have a dialogue with my students.
Yeah.
Um, so anyway, without that said, yeah, my view on that matter is very much experiential avoidance is the death knell of self-actualization.
Mm.
And what we have to do is really trust our intentions, you know, and lead with what we think is or what we know is going to make the world a better place, even if the world doesn't know it yet.
I think it's a good place to. I mean, we're obviously over time, and people are
It's
people are
because
talking,
we're having a great chat.
but we're having a good chat. But I think that's maybe a good place to finish. Or the last question, certainly for me, would be something around. We are as humanity, as a world, facing so much disruption, so much anxiety, so much of the
Yes.
world feels like it's happening to us, and that we don't
Yes.
have control of it. What would be your advice to kind of getting through and living that life and kind of remembering to kind of get up the next day and create?
Look, the art of letting go is our great art form that I encourage everyone to practice. I can load you up with meditations on that. My friend Annika Harris, Sam Harris's wife, but
Yes.
she's in her own right is a superstar. She's a dear friend of mine, and she has a great meditation on the art of just accepting what is. And I think that the greatest wisdom, the greatest skill you could possibly learn is the skill of embracing the unknown. And I understand that there is a great fear of the unknown, but there's also such a great value in surrendering to what is in your life, even if it's not where you want it to be, but surrendering to the fact that it is what it is now, um, and it may never be what you want it to be, but what can you find in the journey,
Mm,
in getting there, that you really have gratefulness for, and
mm,
that you know, your life is unfolding. You don't want to miss it.
mm. Yeah, I think that's a great
It's
place
it
to finish.
Whether you like it or not, this is your life, and why
Yeah.
miss it? It's beautiful. It's beautiful as it is if you can actually realize that.
Mm. Claudia, anything from you to finish?
No, those are great closing words. Yeah, can't beat
Right,
that.
Scott, thank you so much.
That's the
For your
beautiful truth.
time. That's the beautiful
That,
truth right there.
yeah.
No,
Well,
it's
thanks so much
been
for having me.
wonderful.
You both are so smart, and it was just like a real like honor. You're really insightful people. Yeah,
Oh,
thank
it's
you
a
for having
pleasure.
me.
Pleasure to get to meet you.
Yeah, and we look forward to the
Likewise.
forthcoming book as well.
Thank you.
I've just seen is on pre-order as well on Amazon, so we look forward to hearing more about that. To everybody who's tuned in, we'll be sending around insights from today and from the conversation with Scott. So please look for those in your inbox. Thank you so much, Scott. You're a
Thank you.
star. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye, guys.